I realized that I can't just keep this internally anymore, that I needed to try to truly get the help that I needed. Now, again, I still don't pay myself like what you would expect a CEO to pay. I have some people working for me that make more than I do. So
All right, welcome back to the FIP Printing Pros podcast. I am here with Josh Donison. I'm Chris Lockwood. Man, I am excited. We're going to pick up where we left off last time to really get into kind of where we're at today, kind of leading up to that. So I'm excited to get into this conversation. Just a quick recap for everybody what we talked about. Can you just kind of go through in like 30 seconds, where we left off in the beginning of 2020, and then we'll kind of go from there.
yeah, so just got into basically where we had just kind of started paying ourselves with the company, then was planning to try to really take the company to a whole new level. And then that's COVID hit, and that's kind of where were kind of leaving off things a little bit, was right around that realm.
All right, so that would have been around the beginning of March,
Yes.
if I do remember correctly. So COVID gets ready to hit. What's going on in your life at that time?
Well, before that even happened with the business side of things, to kind of go back to what also I was talking about on the last podcast was, kind of my journey from my military career and things like that I was struggling with. And in early March, one of the guys that I deployed with, who I worked not the same side by side, but like basically he was my counterpart. So when I was off, he was on,
Yeah.
kind of person. I ended up getting a call that he had taken his life.
Oh, man.
So that 11 years later, after we got back, this is 2020, we got back early 2009.
Yeah.
And obviously at that point, all of us kind of thought we were, mentally we're thinking we're past the point that we're going to lose anybody to suicide or anything like that. Since it had been 11 years. And when I actually went and talked with his wife, first of all of us, almost my entire unit came from all over the country to come in together for the funeral / celebration that we did for him. And also just to get together for everybody, kind of reunion type of style. We hadn't seen each other, at least all of us, in a long time. We still hung out in smaller groups with each other that stayed friends, but so during all this, I had talked with his wife, and one of the things she had mentioned was that she knew of his struggles, but not quite to the level of his struggles, but he didn't want anybody else to know what was going on. So they just kept it between themselves. And I looked at my life, and that was kind of the same thing for me. I pretty much kept my struggles to myself. I didn't want to look weak, kind of like what I talked about or anything like that. Because again, like my deployment was honestly, for me, the biggest thing for me was I was always on that constant of feeling of like I could die in this next second, because we would get mortared and things like that, and which is basically bombs coming in, for easy explanation of what that is. And we would have to take cover and things like that. But the things with mortars is literally like, it's not a direct, like you hit here, it doesn't mean it's just going to always stay hitting here. Like literally it could hit here and the next one could be way over here. And then, so like you always had this feeling that your next step could be your last. And then on top of that, even on our base, we had, Iraqis that did stuff on our base working and things like that. And one thing you learn, because I worked in the prison, so we had all the worst of the worst people there.
Yeah.
Like we held them there. Some of these people are the good people in general, but there's not many money opportunities in Iraq. So sometimes they make a decision to do things for the money through Al Qaeda and whatever else, this is before ISIS. It was Al Qaeda really was the main thing back then. And so, they would try to make money by doing things that they, normally wouldn't do. And so my thought was always, all these Iraqis on our base, I always had myself on guard constantly, that like thinking that, so I barely slept, barely, I struggled with constant, like, not fight or flight, but like a just an intense like awareness of my surroundings and constant like worrying and thinking about the next thing that could happen type of thing.
And that carried on for 11 years. You didn't deal with it. You have
Correct.
a member of your unit commit suicide.
Yep.
What did that make you realize? What did you do then?
I realized that I can't just keep this internally anymore, that I needed to try to truly get the help that I needed. And ended up going to the VA and seeking out counseling, and went to a therapist and really started to really dig deep into like my feelings and things like that. And I realized that, as you may well aware now, I'm probably one of the most transparent people you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has come from my realization that holding everything inside and just doing that is just not healthy for you, and ultimately eventually can be your own demise. And so I just started just whatever I'm thinking, feeling, not everything. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
we don't want to know everything you're thinking.
no, but more so like the things that were affecting me emotionally,
Yeah.
or anything like that. Things I was stressed about, things like that. I would find somebody to talk to, and that's kind of how really that whole situation, affected me and helped me get to where I really needed to be at in my life.
Well, I'm glad you did. I wish more people understood this. I wish more people understood that it's okay to ask for help. We could prevent a lot of bad things from happening if we would just realize that it's stronger to admit you need help than it is to try and keep it in. So I commend
Correct.
you for that. So March 2020, COVID, you have to deal with that. You start dealing with your issues, but you also have a business to run.
Yep.
So what do y'all do, man? That's gotta be tough. So how do what do you make it through, or how do you start to make it through? And pretty soon this is the FIP episode, so I know this is going to happen in this year. So kind of talk me through the next few months of what was going on.
So, again, going back to last episode, like I was talking about, we had basically the COVID happened and everything just shut down, events, everything like that. Got to the point where we really, didn't have any much income coming in at all, because there just wasn't people that were purchasing the things that needed to be purchased that through our company. And so I started, again, going back to my military training, adapt and overcome. What do I need to do? Figure out how can I make this still work? Because we literally got to the point where I had a couple $100s in our business account. And at this point, first of all, like I said, we had just started paying ourselves because we were in a good financial standpoint where we could start paying ourselves and not even hurt the company by any means. And so I started doing that. And then as soon as COVID hit, stopped paying ourselves again, because now I got to like...
See, you got a couple of paychecks out of it so far.
Yeah. So because I didn't know what to expect. So we kept paying our employee, obviously, but I needed to figure out what our next step was. And I started kind of looking at, and again, looking online mentors through YouTube videos, podcasts, and things like that, and came across some people talking about diversification and things like that. And some of it's not just necessarily in your own industry, but just diversify your financial portfolio in general.
Yeah. So I want to pause you real quick, because you said something. I want to really hit on this, and I want people out there to understand this. I've been in the mentor business for a long time. I'm a one-on-one coach. I do a lot of those things, but I want people to understand a mentor doesn't have to be someone that you actually talk to. There are so many videos out there. There's so many podcasts out there. You find someone that you connect with,
Yeah,
and let them be your mentor through their channel.
correct.
You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to ask them questions, because I promise you, when you have the question, they have a video that'll answer.
Yeah.
So find your mentors if you can't afford to pay for them, because they're not going to give you their time. Do what Josh is talking about here, and use that mentor that's already putting their stuff out there. That will elevate your game so much. So I wanted to, you said it before, and I wanted to make sure I hit that like really hard, like foot stomp that. Let's make a short out of this part.
Yeah.
use what people already put out there for your mentors. And as you elevate, now you can get yourself in a position to where now you know what other questions to ask. And then you can find other people you can have that back and forth with. But man, that's what you said there was magical. I want to just hit that real quick.
Yep.
So I didn't mean to interrupt. Okay,
No,
keep
you're
going.
fine.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is, and like I've even said in I don't remember if it was the episode I did with you or Julian, but I had mentioned, I'm the type of person that I try to take any knowledge I can get and learn from it if I can put it into my own life as much as possible. And hopefully that I personally don't have to be the one to learn from my own mistakes. If I can learn
Yeah,
from somebody else,
for sure.
to me, that is the biggest key is if you can really truly take from somebody else's knowledge and experience and failures that they've already gone through, and you can take that and put it into your life before you do any of those things and mess that up. That to me, that's a big key to truly being setting yourself up for success in life and business, um, but so as far as going back to FIP, that's coming. I haven't talked about that yet, but my next path that I decided to try to figure out how to navigate this was the diversification. They had mentioned in the video, and I realized, okay, well, what else can I do within my industry? I already do promotional, I do apparel. Okay, well, there's printing, there's signs, there's banners, there's mailing services, there's all these different things that really tie into each other that can really diversify my portfolio within this industry for this business. Um, and so I started looking in my local area to see if there's any print shops that were up for sale or anything like that, because where I was at, it's a very like loyal area.
Yeah.
They're going to be loyal to the person they work with and things like that. So me getting a printer coming in, like a printing machine to come in, I would have never grown what I needed to grow. And plus, then I'm putting myself in more debt to as far as buying a machine and then it not pay off because they're loyal to these guys over here. So I went to my competitors in that field there, and none of them wanted to sell. And one got close where they were thinking about it, but they decided not to sell. Because also why I was wanting to go after the print market is because in my research I saw that people were still trying to reach people through mailers and things like that at their homes, because while people weren't necessarily going to work or going to events and things like that, you could still reach them at their home. So a lot of companies were now like trying to hit people with mailers. So that part of the business in my industry was still doing decent. Obviously, every company was hit pretty hard during COVID, but that one wasn't hit as hard for my industry. So since locally there was no options available, I then opened it up to everything. And I've always thought, again, same thing with business. I thought 40s, 50s, I thought eventually retirement age, I would be Florida, Arizona,
Yeah.
Texas, I'd be in one of those three states is my eventual thought process of retirement area. Never thought I'd be there in my working years. But I opened it up and I found some print shops that were for sale in Arizona, Texas, and Florida. Dove deep into all those and ended up finding this particular situation with FIP, First Impressions Printing.
So we're just out of curiosity, where were you looking to find these opportunities?
It was a website. I did on a couple different ones, but I believe this one was bizforsale.com or something like that.
So you just Googled businesses for sale and these websites come up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then obviously you got brokers a lot of times that are involved in these.
Yeah.
So brokers are the ones putting them on these sites to sell. And so eventually I was connecting with different brokers who then I'd have to sign a NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and things like that to be able to get the financials and really dive deep into if it's a viable situation and everything like that. And this particular one in Ocala, Florida, First Impressions Printing, was the perfect opportunity. It had been the previous owner passed away in 2010 from a heart attack, and gave the company to his two brothers who were in Pennsylvania and Michigan. So they weren't really fully on site. They had a general manager running it. So I knew, obviously, with my company I had in Nebraska, that I how much I can affect a business when I'm hands on and being a part of the community and selling
Yeah.
myself and just changes I can make within the company. That I felt like this was a perfect opportunity with no ownership on site that I could really come in and make a big difference. Plus, it's Florida.
Yeah. Not a bad place to move to, I guess.
Yeah, and then also geographically, it works great, especially for where we're kind of at right now, where we're trying to we want to try to expand our foothold is right now, because this company is mostly basically a customer base of just our city, and surrounding areas. I mean, we're within 2 hours of Jacksonville, Gainesville, Daytona, Tampa, Orlando, you name it. There's
Major cities. Yeah.
major cities. So there is a huge opportunity. And now, again, I would love to eventually go nationwide with the company. That's my long-term goal.
Yeah.
Now, realistically, I know that may not come to full fruition, as well as if it does, it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
But what I can do in the meantime is grow within, a certain radius of where I'm at and have some control over that. And so that's kind of where I'm at
Okay.
with that.
So here it is, middle of COVID.
Yep.
Most of the country shut down. It's just so funny. 2 of the 3 places you found someplace to sell didn't shut down, or at least it did maybe briefly.
Not much. Yeah.
So you're like, hey, we're going to Florida. We're going to buy this business. Real quickly, what was the financial situation like? Was it another seller financing thing, or did you have to get a bank loan? How did that deal go down?
So I actually, before COVID, ended up refinancing my Nebraska loan into an actual bank loan through the SBA because I wanted to do some things with the company that required. Basically, I was going to have to get permission from the seller financing people, and they didn't want me to do what I wanted to do. So, in order for that
What
to
was
happen,
that? What'd you
I don't
do?
remember what it was now. It had to do with the fact of me going nationwide and what I was going to have to do to make that happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I had to get their permission on something. I don't remember what it was.
Probably one of those cases. If the business went back to them, they didn't want it to go in the direction.
Maybe that's what it
gotcha.
was. I believe maybe that was what the conflict was with that. So I had to end up getting an SBA loan, and I dealt with that whole situation prior to that. So now fast forward for First Impressions Printing, when I went to buy that, this is a way bigger company. First of all, we had one employee. In our Nebraska business, this place had, I believe, to start, it was 12 employees.
Oh, wow.
So went from 1 to 12 employees buying this company. So the amount of money was a lot different compared to like 350,000 of my first business. This one was over right around $1 million. Actually, they were trying to sell it for 1.1.
Okay. What was their revenue at the time?
So prior to COVID, it was just over $2 million, 2.1, I think.
Okay.
And over COVID, it dropped down to 1.4.
But they still kept their employees.
Well, so they were way more employees than that, but mind you, this is later in 2020. So this is towards the end of the year. So they had already laid off some people to make things work within the company. I don't recall how many employees they had to lay off because obviously I was taking over what I took over.
Yeah.
So again, they were asking 1.1. I negotiated that down to, I want to say it was like 850,000. Because obviously I had a little leverage because of COVID and the issues that it had, with sales and everything like that for that year. And plus still a lot of unknowns that was involved in that, as well as I also got about 100,000 in seller financing. Still some flexibility that I kind of messed with within that.
Okay. So you talked them down to 800 plus thousand, 100,000 for seller finance. Then the rest was all bank loans.
Correct.
Let's talk just briefly about, and I think in a future episode, we're going to get into the whole SBA thing. I don't want to really dive into that, but Just the difficulties of getting a loan at this point, because you already had one SBA loan.
Yes.
So did you have to sell that one in order to get this one, or was it completely separate?
So first of all, obviously, like I had mentioned in the last episode, seller financing was a way easier way to go about things because you're directly be able to negotiate the terms and whatnot. Banks are a lot more difficult, especially SBA loans. There's a lot of red tape that goes into that you have to go through, jump through a lot of hoops and things like that. But it does help get a person that's not as experienced and or in a small business to get that opportunity. I was able to basically the first one, I got a lot of no's. I got 10 to 15 no's, but I found somebody to say yes. And again, like one of the biggest things, like I said in the last episode, the biggest thing in business that you can really provide is that ability to adapt and overcome and persevere, and really push through the hard times and don't just take no for an answer. If you'll find somebody that says yes. And some of that is you're gonna have to really explain your story, build a business plan, really show what you can do with this company and what your future plans are, because they want to see that because it's based off of current financials a lot of times, but also they will, if you can find the right partner and bank, your future plans can be a part of that in your projections.
Yeah.
So fast forward again now to this loan. I already did that and got 10 to 15 no's or whatever. Now I'm in this process. And again, probably now 15 to 20 no's that I got. And it was even harder this time I feel like because it was in the middle of COVID and
Oh yeah.
so many unknowns. People nobody really even knew when things were going to get back to normal at this point. Like as far as when people are going to start really fully coming back to work and starting events, and because that was still going on almost all through 2020.
Well, and even in Florida, like Florida had opened up, but even there were still so many unknowns. There was still some restrictions
Yes.
and those kind of things. So banks would definitely be.
Yep. And so I had to go very unconventional route, which is still through the SBA, but unfortunately, what I had to take was a variable loan, which we'll get to that at some point later. How that came to be.
What did that do to you?
But got a variable loan through the SBA, but as far as the SBA, you have to put 10% down in order to get the loan, and they will cover 50%. I put 10% down, then the bank covers 40%, and basically it's less risk on the bank because then God forbid if I didn't I failed or anything like that, at least the bank is only taking that 40% risk rather than the full 100%. Yeah. So it gives a bank basically more reason to say a yes, having the SBA backing it 50%. And whatnot. But again, I got 15 to 20 no's before I finally found the yes, but I found somebody to say yes. But now the next part is that 10%. So I already paid 50,000 down on the Nebraska business. Well, I don't have that much money left over because one, I wasn't paying myself for a year. On top of that, then I only paid myself for 3 months, and then I've gone the rest of this year not paying myself again. So now I'm, starting to get to that point where there's not as much money in my bank account personally. And but I found a loophole in the tax stuff with the COVID situation where I could pull my retirement out tax free or I don't know if it was tax free or
tax deferred. I think is
penalty, no penalties and all that kind of stuff. There was a lot more rules where I could pull it out and not pay as much of a penalty and things like that out. They basically got rid of those for people during COVID times. So I literally had just enough to pay the $85,000 down because it was $850,000 was the purchase price. Mm-hmm. So I had 85,000 almost exactly. I think it was like I had an extra couple thousand and left over or something. So I put that directly on my down payment, and now I am all in. I have nothing as a safety blanket anymore, really, in my business journey, and that's I guess what I've also learned in my mentors that I've watched online. And again, you got to do it wisely. Don't just like be stupid about it, but having a plan B is where a lot of businesses go wrong. You can have a plan B as far as like future growth and like opportunities and things like that. But if you like have one foot in, one foot out, like, let's see if this works out kind of thing. No, you're going to make it work.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have to have a plan B, that means your plan A wasn't very good, right?
Correct.
Isn't that what they say? My plan
Yes.
B is for plan A to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that was, we went all in. Don't get me wrong. Was I scared? Was I worried? And all the things, without a doubt. But I knew I had to go all in to make this happen. And that's what we ended up doing. That finally, again, after first of all, the SBA there's a lot that goes into it. And eventually, I would love to maybe bring in like a commercial lender that deals with the SBA, maybe in here as a guest to really fully explain it. Because even from my perspective, I can't fully explain it, but it is a lot, and they help, but it also is a lot. But so that was December 2020. So December 15th is when I officially purchased First Impressions Printing. We moved down here. Again, my wife at the time and we purchased it and moved down here. Within that month, we literally sold our house, bought a business, and moved here, like all within a month. So like I was like all over the place.
Yeah.
So that kind of fast forwards us to then getting to Florida and purchasing First Impressions.
Okay,
Printing.
so you get to Florida, you purchased a new company. You still have your company in Nebraska, though, right?
Correct.
Okay, so talk us through what it was like running two businesses, and then when did you make the decision to get rid of the one in Nebraska and fully focus on the one here in Florida? Like, how was it balancing those two?
So again, I had to sell our house, buy a business, and also find an employee to help, because we had one employee, but they couldn't handle it all on their own because my wife and I at the time were the ones that were in the business helping run the business. So we had to hire an employee to come in on that in that time frame too. So when we left, we had two employees. We ended up moving to Florida because there was just so much I had to do here, and also this is where we decided we wanted to live and really focus on this business and grow this business, because it had way more opportunity for growth with, like I said, the whole surrounding radius that we had. So
we also had absent owners too.
Correct. So, that is the big part.
One of the big selling points.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. Then time's going on, and I'm really trying to focus here in the middle of COVID and all that stuff still with both businesses. It started to get to the point where I was having to really truly divide my time up, and I was starting to slowly realize that it was just getting to be too much for me.
Yeah.
That this is a year and a half down the road. Eventually, the employee that was with us, that was actually in the business, the beginning, that the previous owner at the Nebraska company wanted to give it to my wife at the time, and her together, she ended up at the time not wanting it. Now she's buying the company.
So your employee is like, hey, I want this ownership.
Again, that's 2 years later.
Yeah.
A year and a half after we officially moved to Florida and all that kind of stuff. I also kind of told her that, this is getting to be too much for me, dividing my time, and I feel like I can't fully focus on this business and grow this business until I take my divided attention off of what's going on here. And plus, I'm not there physically, and it's hard for me to affect a business personally when I'm not there physically, or at least from time to time, going there. And so I kind of told her, if you want it, you can have it. Otherwise, I need to try and find a buyer for it. Okay. So that's kind of what happened with that. So
did she end up buying it?
Yes, she partnered with a couple people, which eventually that one employee I had when I left ended up leaving, and then we brought in two more people, and then those three basically partnered all up together with another outside person to buy the company together.
Okay. This was in 2021 or?
That was 2022 when that happened. When I sold the Nebraska company to them, that was 2022. But 2020 was when I bought First Impressions Printing.
Right. Yeah. But at the end of the year, so you basically have both companies for a year.
Year and a half. Yep.
Year and a half. Okay. Now, 2022, you're all in on First Impressions. What's going on then?
So at that same time, again, I like to do things all at once, apparently. At that same time, we had we were leasing the building from the previous owner because at the time we couldn't afford the down payment again on the
Yeah.
building because it's a 10,000 square foot building. And so, that was, I don't remember what it was $970,000 to purchase the building.
So it was more for the building than it was for the business.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll have to get in later on at some point in the future, like how to evaluate the business versus the real estate. I know about the real estate part, but I don't always understand evaluate the business. So that's interesting. We'll come back to that at some point in the future. So you're going to buy the real estate now?
Yes, because at that point my lease was outweighing what I could do it if I just got if I bought it and paid a mortgage on, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And plus we were wanting to expand what our offerings were in-house. So we were just doing printing and some other things in-house, but I wanted to we were outsourcing all of our signage and things like that. I wanted to bring that all in-house so we could have more control over it.
Yeah.
And upgrade our machinery to more new age stuff. And so I had the opportunity to buy the 10,000 square foot building, plus expand into 3 new machines I really needed to build our signage side out and things like that. And I was able to get the building and the 3 pieces of machine, and I would drop what I was currently paying my lease payment to what my mortgage would now be on all of that combined by $1,800 a month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I own the building and had the 3 pieces of extra equipment for $1,800.
And you're paying $1,800 less.
Less. Yep.
Okay.
That
sounds like a smart move.
At the time, yes. Yeah. Again, variable loan is what I could get. Again, even in that process, got told no 10 to 15 times. Found somebody to give me a yes, and got the deal done. Then personal life happens literally. So this is I closed end of June or beginning of July, and then
2022.
Okay. Then so first of all, you had COVID. Then you had, I didn't talk about it, but supply chain issues. That was a whole different beast.
So real quickly, hit on the supply chain issues. What was?
So the struggle during that time was getting any product that we needed to get in, and for our industry as paper, also we had only had one vendor that we were working with to get our paper. So all the paper suppliers were only working with their people who were their customers at the time, and they only had certain allocations of paper. So I couldn't even go to try all the other paper vendors to see if they had things I needed because they weren't accepting new people.
And that was during the time when they had problems with the shipping from overseas.
Correct.
Yep. I'm trying to remember everything that was going on with that.
They were hiking prices up like crazy.
The shipping was there. I want to say there was probably a couple of strikes during that time.
Correct. Yep.
I remember that them showing the pictures of all the ships sitting off, because they couldn't get them offloaded and all that. So, okay. So you're dealing with supply chain issues, and now you got some personal issues going on.
Then the next thing that kind of it was in my personal life in end of July, divorce. Again, this is my business partner, by the way. So this is my wife.
So y'all 50-50, or if y'all don't have it split, where y'all are 50-50 at the time.
Technically, we restructure it where I'm technically 51, she's 49, so that we can designate our business as a veteran-owned business.
Okay, gotcha.
So that I can try for different government contracts. And
so why did y'all do that over a woman-owned business?
One, we talked about it because we were fine with going either way, but we talked about it. I'm more of the face of the company and more on the sales side. And so it just made more sense to kind of put it that way. Plus, there's more opportunity out there for a veteran-owned business because I'm also service disabled. So I have service disabled, veteran-owned.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so there's many different categories I could fit under to help with that. But again, even with our divorce, it wasn't like a bad divorce or anything like that. It just, we kind of honestly became like more like siblings, like roommates.
Yeah.
And it just we just kind of grew apart in that way. So it was what was best. But obviously for me personally, I'm a man of faith. So I never wanted to ever get a divorce or anything like that. So it hit me pretty hard,
Mm.
despite the fact that I, knew that it was probably best for both of us because we weren't, totally happy in our marriage. But but that hit me pretty hard. That kind of affected me, business wise, not to be able to be the full person I needed to be for a little while. Um, and so that was kind of another struggle that I kind of faced throughout my business journey. And then obviously financially, even that kind of messed things up because then you got to splitting the money up in
Yeah.
house and try. Now I got to go buy a house over here. Then because we were sharing income and we were at the time not paying ourselves what we needed to pay ourselves because we were very little just to what we needed to pay our bills and that was it. But now we got to split up. I need a mortgage. You got a mortgage, and now we got to pay ourselves more, so put more stress on the business.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a lot. But the good thing is that her and I are still really good team and everything like that. We get along great. And her and my current wife actually get along great. They hang out together, and it works out great. And she's got a fiance that is actually going to be moving here that he might even be kind of joining the company because he works at a sign shop right now. So he'll bring some of his knowledge from what he's learning there come over at us. And so it's kind of cool situation all encompassed into it now. But yeah, that's that struggle. Then the next struggle, and the last one really that we facing, other than just now trying to grow the company really hardcore, was inflation.
Yeah, so we're about to get to the variable rates. We're going to find
Yes.
out what happened with that. You got the loans.
Yep.
You got the SBA loan. You have a loan for the equipment in the building.
Yep.
Both of those are variable rates.
Yes.
So explain what a variable rate means.
So a variable rate instead of a fixed rate where it just stays what your interest rate is throughout the entirety of the loan. A variable rate, it goes up or down with the market. When the interest rates go up with the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff, it goes up. And obviously with the inflation we had in the last 2 to 3 years, that went up ginormously. And like I said, I've already got over $2 million in loans or something like that, roughly at that point. Adding the extra interest on there jumped my payments an additional, mind you, $9,000 a month.
Okay. So what, you just give us round numbers. What were you paying initially?
It would have been roughly like 18,000 roughly a month.
$18,000 a month.
Yep.
Now I'm not the best at math, but you add another 9,000 to that.
Yep.
That's almost, well, that's more than $100,000 more a year. Just in mortgage, just in loan payments.
$108,000 a year.
Okay. So let's recap. Decide, well, COVID hits. You have to deal with the death of your friend. COVID hits. Business goes to almost nothing. And you're like, the hell with it. We're going to just go deeper. So I'm going to get $2 million worth of loans, variable interest rates. Oh, by the way, now we have some supply chain issues to deal with.
Yep.
And we're going to get a divorce. But you're still all in.
Yep.
So let's tie this all together. Where are you at right now with all of these things that happens? Where's your mindset at right now?
Like right this moment?
Right this moment.
So with the interest rates that the inflation went up and everything like that, I have been trying to refinance that loan since October of 2023.
How many times did you get told no?
Probably. So I had, on my other loans, 10 to 15 no's, 10 to 15 no's, 15 to 20 no's.
Yeah, we're up to like 60 no's at this point.
Yeah. So on this particular loan, over 30 no's. I lost track, honestly, on this one because it was getting to the point where it was getting ridiculous. So this one was over 30 no's that I got told from different banks. Like I said, I started this October of 2023. and today is February 2025, and I'm just about to finally officially close the last part of my refinance. So it took close to a year and a half just to get a refinance, and all in the way I had to. Thankfully, I found the right they're actually a nonprofit that works directly with the SBA and knows what the SBA is going to accept, puts that in there. Then I also tied it into a rebuild Florida program, amortizes it over a longer period of time, but then you have a balloon payment and then another one. So like there's technically 3 loans to refinance this all into one thing to make it work. But now because of it, I'm right back where my 18 close, if not a little less. I'm waiting for this last loan to see where it ends up. It's going to be a little less right on or a little above than my 18,000 I was paying before that.
So that's why now's the time to start expanding.
Correct.
Where's your mindset at?
Now it is basically let's try to figure. I want to know everything I can do to really grow our company and our reach. And part of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast too is because even though I've had my mentors online that I've watched and things like that, and I've definitely pulled pieces from it and learned from it and things like that, but I still was listening to millionaires and billionaires talk about how they got to where they were. And a lot of them sometimes are like, oh yeah, I just threw $500,000 on my marketing budget this month to
Yeah.
get to my multi-billion a
Yeah.
year or million a year that I make in revenue. So that's not realistic for somebody like me. I can't throw $500,000 in marketing to get to this level or anything like that. So I'm in this process right now of like trying to navigate what that is looking like and how I can get to that level and be strategic about where I spend my money to then help expand me to the point where I'm growing. So the point of this podcast is I'm just like the other business owners. Maybe I'm a little further ahead because maybe some people are just starting out their journey or whatever the case may be, but I'm still at least a little closer than what some of these big names are and things like that. And I want to help people in their journey really understand and I'm going to be trying to be fully transparent with what I'm going through and what I've been through and how I am navigating it all and hopefully help them reach their like I said, learn from my mistakes, failures, and
Yeah.
or my successes. Hopefully here soon that I can tell about. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's the main thing that I guess I would say right now, where I'm in the middle of is I'm trying to now figure out how because now I'm building my account back up because obviously it drained down. I had to pull lines of credits to keep my employees employed and things going. That ended up having to be paid off with this refinance as well but I had to do what I had to do. Again, I stopped paying myself again, there for a while. So all the things so just for my 7 years of being a business owner, I don't remember the exact breakdown, but I would say 3 years I have not been getting paid out of those 7 years. 2 of those, I want to say I basically partially paid myself, just enough to basically probably half of what I normally would make or whatever. And then 2 years of actually making money. Now, again, I still don't pay myself like what you would expect a CEO to pay. I have some people working for me that make more than I do. But that's just, I guess what you have to do, in the beginning stages. And I'm hopefully, again, the sacrifice for the big payoff in the end is what I'm going for. I guess just to wrap it all up in a nutshell, just with kind of the journey is again, it's about perseverance. It's not about taking no for an answer. In certain situations, take no for an answer. In business, do not take no for an answer.
All right, you just jumped back into law enforcement there for a minute. No means no.
But I guess that's my biggest thing that I can take away is, you have to really push through, persevere,
Embrace the suck.
embrace the suck. That's my motto. And that's the biggest thing I would have to say.
Love it, man. Well, listen, this is what I'm excited about. So we're going to wrap this episode up now. The next one, I think we're going to dive into kind of what the future goals are, the changes that are being made. And I'm excited about that. That's what you brought me on for.
Yep.
So I'm excited to talk about that. So if you want to close us out here, man, let's get on to work.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for listening. And again, please, as much as you can, share, like, subscribe, do all the things. That's the biggest way, I can, we're not making money off this, but if you can share the content as far as keep reaching the people that could truly use the help, that's the goal of all this. If you could please do that, appreciate it. And again, let's grow together.
It's time to step up, yeah, it's grind time, no more letting up, no, running faster, further, no more running up, yeah, giving my all, no more giving up, listen to me, stand.